And the first thing you need to do is click on this green button right here, which is labeled Join Room. So click on that, and then we'll have access to the room, and we'll be able to start the associated virtual machine with this module. So of course, for free users, you can also do this option right here, which is called Start Attack Box. And this is going to start a virtual machine that is connected to the TryHackMe network. And this is a very convenient way for students to learn, even if you don't have a Kali Linux virtual machine to test with, or a Parrot OS one, or any other type of offensive-oriented virtual machine. So let's click on Start Attack Box to start up our TryHackMe attacking virtual machine. And then inside the web page, we're going to, under Task 1, we're going to click on this button right here, which is labeled Start Machine. And that's going to start up the vulnerable server that is associated with this room. So it's going to take a few minutes for everything to initialize. So we're going to have to be patient while this infrastructure starts up. So we see here that we've finished initializing our attack box. So what we need to do is we need to click into here and dismiss this terminal right here by hitting the Enter key. And then we can put this in its own browser tab by clicking on this button right here, which is labeled View in Full Screen. So we can click on that, and then we will get a full screen of the virtual machine, which is much more convenient for working inside of it. And then we can go back to the web page over here, and then we can click on this button here labeled Exit Split View. So click on that, and we will have one browser tab for our TryHackMe webpage, and another one for our attack box. So now that we have our environment set up, we can start with our scans. So if we go back to the TryHackMe webpage, we see that we have a target IP address over here, along with a little button that says Copy to Clipboard. So this is very convenient because in order to access this vulnerable server, we're going to need to use its IP address. So you can click on Copy to Clipboard over here, and I'm going to make this font a little bigger. All right, and then we're going to go to the attack box terminal, and we're going to run our first scan, which is going to be an Nmap scan. So I like to run Nmap with the following flag. So it's -pv for very verbose output, meaning that it's going to show output before the scan is finished, and then we're going to scan all the ports with -p-, and then we're going to run it at a particular speed, so very fast but not too fast, with -t4. And the last thing we need to provide is the IP address, which we will paste in with Control-Shift-V. All right, so when we fire off this Nmap scan, it's going to reveal a few ports immediately. In this case, it discovers port 22, port 8080, and port 53. So to people who are knowledgeable about networking ports, these well-known networking ports, port 22 is associated with SSH, that service for logging in remotely. Port 8080 is often used as a HTTP proxy service, and port 53 is associated with DNS. So that being said, we have this over here. Notes by Nisha says SSH, HTTP, and DNS. Right, and welcome to the stream, Notes by Nisha. Nice to see you here. I hope you haven't solved this one before, because then you'll be repeating yourself. And I like to think that people are learning some new things when they're coming to this stream. Okay, so the first thing we can do is we can navigate to the web page. Notes by Nisha says, I haven't solved this one yet. Okay, well, I hope you can learn something new while we work through this box. Okay, so we can go over to the Firefox web browser inside of the attack box and start that up. And we're going to be navigating to the web page on port 8080 in this case. So remember that this web browser is a separate web browser than the web browser that we're actually using for Try Hack Me. So it's a web browser inside of a web browser, just like Exhibit would have wanted. So we can go over here, we can paste in the IP address, we can fix it with HTTP at the beginning, and then we can do :8080 to specify we want to communicate on this particular port. Okay, so after we navigate to this page, then we see that we're dealing with this software right here. So this is Apache Tomcat, which is a particular type of web server software, and that is based on Java, if I do remember correctly. And since we see that there is Apache Tomcat running on the server with this particular version, we probably want to search for this version. So this is part of enumeration. So we know that this software is running right here, so we can copy this and we can search for it. So inside of Google, let's see. So okay. So if you're running as a free user, you're not going to be able to access the internet from inside of your attack box, but you can go to your regular web browser, and then you can paste in Apache Tomcat 9.0.30, and immediately inside of the search results there is an exploit. So you know that this is good because exploit appears immediately when you punch in this particular software and version. Okay, so we can click on this search term right here, Apache Tomcat 9.0.30 exploit, and immediately we have an entry from exploit DB. So this is the exploit database, and a lot of challenges in Hack the Box and Try Hack Me make use of exploits from exploit DB. So let's check this out. So Apache Tomcat AJP ghost cat file read/inclusion. So we can click on this link, and immediately over here we see that the exploit is called Apache Tomcat AJP ghost cat file read/inclusion, and it says Metasploit. So Metasploit implies that this particular exploit is used with the Metasploit framework, and that means that we're going to have to use Metasploit in order to access this exploit. So you'll also notice that this is called GhostCat, and if you go back to the Track Me webpage, that there is a logo over here called GhostCat. So before we take advantage of this, we should probably read up a little bit about what GhostCat is. So we can do that over on another web browser tab, GhostCat, Apache Tomcat. And I guess we can punch in exploit. So we can read about this vulnerability over here. So this analysis, there's a Trend Micro article talking about GhostCat. So we can click on here, and we can get the gist about this particular vulnerability. So the analysis of Apache Tomcat vulnerability seeks to put the most feared GhostCat related scenario into perspective by delving into the unlikely circumstances that would make it possible to allow an RCE through the vulnerability. Okay, so let's take a look. So it says Apache Tomcat is a popular open source Java servlet container. So the discovery of GhostCat understandably sets off some alarms. This blog seeks to put the most feared GhostCat related scenario into perspective by delving into the unlikely circumstances that would make it possible to allow an RCE through the vulnerability. Okay, so it says here that GhostCat was discovered on February 20th. So in this case, we're talking about 2020 by Chai-Tin Tech security researchers who reported that vulnerability exists in the Apache JServe protocol, AJP. The AJP is a binary protocol used by the Apache Tomcat web server to communicate with their servlet container that sits behind the web server using TCP connections. It is mainly used in a cluster or reverse proxy scenario where web servers communicate with application servers or servlet containers. So in simple terms, the HTTP connector is exposed to clients while the AJP is used internally between the web server and the Apache Tomcat server. So it's implemented as a module in the Apache HTTP server, represented as modjk or mod proxy AJP. Okay, so so the thing we should understand about this particular exploit is that AJP is able to access files on the web server, and this particular exploit allows us to read files and potentially write files using this vulnerability. So let's go back to the exploit database exploit over here. So we have our Metasploit module over here that is probably going to let us read files on the web server that is running the vulnerable version of Apache Tomcat. So in order to use this exploit, we can go back to our Try Hack Me attack box, and then we can start up our this Nmap scan is still going, and we'll come back to it a little bit later. But we can go to one of our other tabs, and then we can start up the Metasploit console. So the Metasploit framework console. So it's I think it's called MFS console. This is the command you want to run to access the Metasploit console. All right. Metasploit framework console. So MSF console. I always get this mixed up. Okay, so we're going to run this. It's going to take a little bit to spin up. Let me take a look at my notes real quick. Okay. So the MSF console lets us access Metasploit, and it's basically the program which lets us interact with all of the wonderful hacking tools inside of Metasploit. So these days I don't use Metasploit too often, but if I keep on doing a lot of these demonstrations over here, I suspect I'm going to. But immediately after you spin up Metasploit, there's always going to be a fun little piece of ASCII art over here for us to look at. All right, so once we've activated the Metasploit console, we can search for the exploit we want to use. In this case, we're searching for something related to GhostCat, so we can just search Ghost, and then we can take a look at the results. So there's quite a few number of exploits called Ghost, but fortunately we're able to see that the exploit we want to use here is Tomcat _ GhostCat, and in this search it is known as index 0. So in order to use an exploit inside of the Metasploit console, we would use the use command. So use and then the number of the exploit we want to use. In this case, we would use 0. So we go back down to the bottom here, and then we give the command use 0, and that brings up the module we want to use over here. So this one is located in the following directory, which is admin/http/tomcat _ ghostcat. So you can show, I think you can show the information about this particular module by using show info. And this is going to give you a short summary of what this command does, what this module does rather. So it says Apache Tomcat AJP file read. So this particular module only reads files. So even though there might be the possibility of writing files using this GhostCat exploit, this particular module only reads files. Okay, so it says rank normal, license, this license right here, disclose. This is when the module was written over here. Oh no, this is when the vulnerability was disclosed. Okay, and then an interesting thing, the thing that we have to keep note of are these basic options over here. So in order to use any Metasploit module, we're going to need to fill in some of these options over here. In this case, we have the port, which is running AJP. There is a default setting over here for this port right here. It asks if it's required, it says no, and there's a description. So there's a file name that is what we want to read. I do believe this is the file that we're going to read when we run the exploit. And then there's an rhost setting over here. So rhost is the IP address or the URL of the target, and we do need to fill this in. And then there's the R port, which is the port that Apache Tomcat is running on, and the default over here is 8080, which is the same as the target that we're working with. Okay, and then it also has SSL equals to false. SSL is usually associated with HTTPS, and in this case it is false. I would assume that in some cases the Apache Tomcat server is going to run with HTTPS, but in this case it does not. So we don't need to set this. So when we go back down, we can begin to configure this module for our use. So we would show options. So this command is going to show us the options again, and then we can start configuring these options. So to set these options, we need to use the set command inside of Metasploit console. So it's going to be set, and then the name of the option over here. So what we need to do is we only need to set this right here, which is rhost, and rhost is the target IP address. So let me grab the IP address really quick from over here, and then we can go back and we can paste it in. All right, so we just need to set this over here, and we should be able to run the exploit after that. So set this, and then we can run the exploit. So in order to run the exploit, we can just use we can use either run or we can use the execute command. So if you want to be dramatic, you can use the execute command, otherwise you use the run command. So we execute this. Oh, no, it's not execute, it's exploit. Right. So to run the command, to run the module, it's either going to be run or it's going to be exploit. So if you want to feel dramatic, you can use exploit. Okay? So the exploit ran, and then it shows us our HTTP status code, and apparently we're making some sort of web request right here. And inside the web request, we were able to read this particular file over here, web-app.xml, which has a bunch of information about this application, and it says welcome to GhostCat, and then we have some user credentials right here. So this set of credentials is going to be username and then colon and then password over here. So we can copy these credentials and we can save them somewhere so we can use them. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to put it over here in one of my notepads. And then after that, we're done. So we're done with this particular module. We managed to get a set of credentials, and we can exit out of here. So we can just hit exit, and then we're done with the Metasploit framework console. Okay, so now that we have this particular set of credentials, what could we do? So before you answer that, let's take a look at what ports are open on this web server here. So we've got port 22, we've got port 8080, we've got port 53, and we've got port 8009. And if you remember that when we're using the exploit module, that port 8009 was associated with the AJP service, and that is what enabled the exploit to work, because we were communicating with this particular service. All right, so with what we just captured right there, we have our set of credentials. So what we could do is we could potentially test the server for password reuse. So if we know about this particular server name and we have the password, we could try to log in to the server using SSH. So we would do SSH and then the username that we captured there, and then the IP address. So this is the IP address right here. So we're going to copy that and we're going to paste it in. And then we're going to try to log in with SSH. It's going to ask us if we want to continue connecting. We say yes. And then we need to insert the password. Okay, so where is the password? This is the password right here. So we're going to copy that. And then we're going to paste it in. And we are in. All right, so we put on our favorite Hollywood hacker voice and say, we're in. Okay. And let's take a look at who we are. So we are this particular user right here. And we can test for sudo permissions by using the following command, sudo l. Okay, so what I like to do when I first land on any Linux box is I like to run this command, sudo l, to see if we have any elevated permissions with any particular programs. And we need to import the password for this colorful user. And it says that the user may not run sudo on Ubuntu. So I guess that's the name of the of this box right here. So if we do host name, then it's going to tell us the name of the server over here. And so the second thing that I like to do is I like to look for flags. So we can search for the flag by using the following command. So we're just going to use a simple find command, and we're going to look for user.txt on this server here. So this is something I like to do as soon as I get onto a system, because we're going to need to search for two flags on the system. There's one that when we have user level access, and there's another one for when we have root level access. So we're going to run this find command, and it's going to tell us that the user.txt file is located in the Merlin users directory. Okay, so we can just, so first of all, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to clear the screen because I don't like being at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to cat out this file, and we get this flag right here. GhostCat is so crazy, isn't it though? Okay, so copy this, and we can supply this to the Try Hack Me page. So there's two questions over here. The first one: compromise this machine and obtain user.txt, and we can paste this in and submit. All right, this is done. Okay, so we go back, and so for the next step, we're going to need to do a little bit of enumeration. So we're in the home directory for this user right here, and if we look inside of this directory, there are a couple of unusual things right here. So there's this file right here called credential.pgp, and there is another file called tryhackme.asc. So if we didn't know about these two files, we could easily do a little bit of research with ChatGPT. So if we were to ask what is the .pgp file extension, we could ask this right here. What is the .pgp file extension? What is the .asc file extension? Okay, in this case, these file extensions are associated with encryption and digital signatures, often used in secure communications. So PGP stands for pretty good privacy, and they're files used to store data that have been encrypted encrypted using PGP, pretty good privacy encryption software. So basically, a PGP file is an encrypted file that has been encrypted with a particular method. In this case, it's called pretty good protection, pretty good privacy, rather. And the other file is the ASC file, which is also called ASCII armored files. And these are text files that contain PGP encrypted data or PGP public keys in ASCII text format. So what we're dealing with over here is one file that contains the key to open up the other file over here. So credential.pgp can be opened up with tryhackme.asc. So if we didn't know anything about PGP and ASC and the relationship between these two, we could probably do a bunch of Googling to figure out how these programs work. But I'll tell you that what we usually do when we use ASC keys with .pgp encrypted archives is that we do the following. So we need to have the GPG program in order to decrypt the files, and we see that it is installed on the server here. And what you would do is GPG import, and then the name of the key, which is tryhackme.asc, and then that is going to let us use the key with the with any of the archives that we want. And the second thing we would do is we would do GPG --decrypt credential.pgp. So here is where we run into a problem. So over here, it says you need a passphrase to unlock the secret key for tryhackme. Okay, this particular keyword over here, we need a passphrase to use the key. And we need to enter the passphrase, but we don't know the passphrase. So what could we potentially do to get the key for this ASC file? So this key needs a passphrase. What can we do to get this key? So we don't know what the key is right now. So we can just exit out of here with Control C. And if we're to read the file, tryhackme.asc, so if we just cat it out, let me clear first, cat out tryhackme.asc, then this looks very similar to the type of key that is used by SSH, actually. So what we actually need to do in this case is we need to copy this. So we can copy this file right here, the entirety of the file, and we can just hit Control-Shift-C to copy this, and then we can try to crack this file on our attacking machine. So we can go over to another tab, and then we're going to use the nanotext editor, and we're going to create our own tryhackme.asc. But this one is going to be on our attacking box as opposed to on the vulnerable server. So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to go back to our attack box, and I'm going to nano into this file right here. We can paste in the contents of the file, and then we can save it by hitting Control X. And then save modify buffer, hit yes, and then hit enter to save the file. All right, so now we have an identical copy of the file on the web server. So we can use John the Ripper, which is our favorite password cracking program. All right, so we're going to use John the Ripper in order to crack the password for this file right here. What we need to do is we need to modify this particular file into a format that John the Ripper likes by using a program called gpg2john, and then we supply the name of the file. It's tryhackme.asc. We're going to redirect the output of that command into tryhackme.hash. Okay, so after that, we have tryhackme.hash, which is the hash that we got out of tryhackme.asc. And if we cat that out, whoops, do that again, .hash, tryhackme.hash. It is this right here. So this particular hash is a GPG hash, which we can tell by this particular prefix right here. We see that tryhackme is the name of the user that is associated with this, and we see the rest of the hash right here. Okay, so in order to crack the hash, we're going to run John the Ripper, and this is how you do it. It's going to be John, and then we have to supply a word list, and it's going to be equal to it's going to be equal to a particular file, which we like to call rocku.txt. On the attack box, it's inside user share word lists rocku.txt, and then we need to supply the name of the file to be cracked, and it is tryhackme.hash. Okay, so we run John the Ripper, and it obtains the passphrase for this particular file, which is this right here, Alexandru. Okay, so now that we have this, we can unlock the GPG file on the server. So let's go back to the server, and let's try our previous command again, which is, so remember, first of all, we imported the key over here, and which with this command right here, gpg -- import, and then the key, and then we tried this one, decrypt, gpg -- decrypt credential.pgp. So we tried this, but because we didn't know the passphrase before, we couldn't use this, but now we can, because we know that the passphrase is Alexandru. So let's type that in, Alexandru, and then press enter. Okay, so over here, this is the output of the command. The formatting is a bit screwed up, but this is the important part of the file. So inside of the credential.pgp file is this set of credentials right here. So this is the other user on the box. So it's this one is Merlin, and then the comma, and then Merlin's password, which is this long string right here. So we're going to copy this set of credentials for our use, and then we're going to paste it into our notes, and then we're going to try to log in as Merlin. So we're going to clear this, and we're going to switch users over to Merlin. So SU Merlin, and then we need to supply a password. So we just got the password. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it into the console. And I'm going to paste in the password, and we are now Merlin, okay? So we can go to Merlin's home directory, and we can see if there's anything in here. So there's just the user.txt file in here. But remember that the first thing you want to do when you get access to a new user account is you want to test out which sudo permissions it has. So of course that's going to be sudo-l, and it doesn't ask me for the password. So I guess it might be because we just logged in as Merlin. So it says that user Merlin may run the following commands on Ubuntu, which is this server. So it says run it as root with no password, user bin zip. So user bin zip, so this is the these are the elevated privileges when we run this particular command, zip. So of course, what we want to do is we want to see if this particular binary is vulnerable to privilege escalation, and we can do so over at the GTFO bins website. So we can access that. So we can take a look at gtfobins.github.io, and then we can search for the zip binary, zip. Okay, so we're here. So zip, and we have sudo access to zip. So we can just click on this button right here for sudo. Okay, so under sudo, there's this entry right here. If the binary is allowed to run as superuser by sudo, it does not drop the elevated privileges and may be used to access the file system, escalate, or maintain privileged access. So it gives an example of how to elevate your privileges with zip right here. So the first thing it does on this line right here is that it sets a variable right here. So a variable, and the variable is called tf, and it's equal to this command right here, mktemp-u. So what this command does is that it creates a temporary file, and I'm not too sure what this flag does, but we can ask our know-it-all friend. Whoops, that's not. Okay, so what is this command? And then we can okay, so let's see. So make temp-u is used to create a unique temporary file or directory in a Unix-like operating system without actually creating the file or directory. The -u option stands for unsafe, which means it generates a unique name and outputs it, but doesn't create the file or directory. This can be risky because there's no guarantee that the name will remain unique by the time you use it, potentially leading to security issues if another process creates a file with the same name. Okay, so this is what we do to elevate our privileges, and the second step is to do this right here, which is sudo zip with the variable name tf, which is equal to the output of this make temp file, and then it runs it on this particular file right here, etc hosts. So we're trying to zip etc hosts, but with these particular options right here, I'm not sure what these particular options do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask what these particular flags do. So using the zip command, what are the flags -T and -T? The -T flag is used to test the integrity of the newly created zip archive. It verifies that the archive can be read and that the contents match what is expected. And the -TT flag allows you to specify a custom command to be executed for testing the archive. This is useful if you want to perform a more specific or complex test on the contents of the archive. Okay, so this right here is the flag that we can use with zip in order to elevate our privileges, because this right here lets us run a command at the same time that we run the zip command. All right, so let's take a look. So the last part of this command is to run sh, and sh is a shell. So what this is going to do is it's going to spawn a shell at the same time that it creates the zip file, and because it is run as sudo, it's going to create a root shell. And the last command right here is that it's going to remove the temporary file over here. So in actuality, we don't need to run this last command. We only need to run these first two commands in order to compromise the machine. So let's do that. So we'll copy this command, and then we'll run it, paste it in and run it. So we now have our variable, and then we're going to run our zip command with sudo, which is going to spawn a shell for us. So copy that, and then run this command. And what it tried to do is, it zipped this file right here, etc. hosts, but it also spawned our shell. So I'm going to clear here, and then I'm going to ask, who am I? We are root. You can actually tell that we're root because the prompt over here has this hash over here, also known as an octothorpe, I think it's called. But anyways, we're root, so we have to run this this redeem right here.
What are you?
I'm system root.
Okay, and now that we are root, we can read the root flag inside of the root directory. So we can cd into root, and then we see that there are 2 files in here, and as a file and a directory. So let's read the root flag. All right, and this is the flag right here to finish the exercise. Zip is fake. So we can copy this, and we can feed it to the TryHackMe website. And then we are done. Congratulations, you completed the room. We can share this with our friends. If we want to share this on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, we can do that. But yeah, we are done. Hey there, HackerFrogs! Are you enjoying this workshop? Learning new concepts and skills? If so, there's a way you can support the channel, and it's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button below the video. Also, click on the like button. And if you have questions or comments on this workshop, please leave them below the video. Thanks for listening. And now, back to our scheduled programming.